Welcome, welcome, welcome. Another episode of the Shoot to Grill podcast. I am your host, Jason Bailey. This is where grilling meets, M-E-A-T-S, entertainment. That's what we do. So we've got, as usual, our producer, Mr. Pornstash Nate, and we've got our chef in Miami, part of our armed forces, always with the Camaro in the background, trying to do his best for a better podcast set as he's now added a tent, and he's very excited about it. That is Jimmy Bones. And our celebrity guest this week is WWE Hall of Famer, host of Busted Open on Sirius XM with Bubba Ray / Bully Ray and Dave LaGreca and Tommy Dreamer and everybody else you got on that damn radio show. But yeah, I know. And of course, Olympian and a holder of a million different world records in weightlifting. It is the Mark Henry. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great, man. I'm in my element right now. I see a grill back there.
I know. So let me explain for those that are listening and or watching how this whole thing came about. So my good buddy, Bubba Ray Dudley, who works with Mark, obviously worked with him in the WWE and then also works with him on the Busted Open radio show on Sirius XM on Fight Nation. He was like, we had Bubba on, and, I talk to Bubba all the time. He's like, dude, you have got to get Mark Henry on this podcast. That man eats barbecue all the damn time. That's all he does is grill. That is true, correct?
Man, I am smoking today. As soon I got the fire prep, I got my chimneys ready to go. As soon as we get off, I'm doing steaks and ribs.
You sent me that video the other week, the other day, and those, what was that? That was ribs, right? Man, they look good.
Those are beef ribs.
Beef ribs, yeah.
Yes,
those
sir.
Are really, really good.
Listen, man, I don't know how y'all are about, where you get your meat. And whenever I'm talking to foodies like myself, I always say where I get my meat, man. Like, there's a guy named Doug Hassel, and Doug owns the Hassel Cattle Company. And you can go on their website, and brother, they not paying me. They not giving me nothing for free. They have Wagyu beef, and they do beef bacon, which is unbelievable. Their sausage is probably the best sausage I ever had. It's not foo-foo sausage, it's real beef sausage. And they have a jalapeno cheddar one that's ridiculous. But they do Wagyu beef. And to explain, they took the Japanese Kobe cows and they bred them with the Angus cows here in Texas. And over the last 10 years, they developed into having one of the best products that I've ever had. And I got to give love to the other meat companies. There's a bunch of them out there. If you'd be hard pressed to have one of these elite people send you some bad meat, but man, it's so marbled and is kind of Kobe-esque. It's more expensive, but you know what, man? What else you gonna spend your money on? I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I'm gonna eat myself to death.
Well, we kind of always say that, even from the beginning of this podcast, which started a little over a year ago, we deal with a guy here in Atlanta, but he ships it out everywhere. Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com is his website. And Terry, he's got some great meat. And, it's like one of the things with grilling is if you're going to take the time and you're going to put the effort into doing anything in life, but definitely grilling, make sure you got the best that you can possibly put on that grill, because you can spend like 8 hours, smoke like your beef ribs, why are you going to go cheap on the ribs if you're going to put 8 hours of effort into that?
Yeah. I mean, and if you listen to the video I sent you, those brothers went on at 10:30 p.m. Listen, I wanted to sleep through the night and wake up. I set my alarm for 4 hours, and I got up at about 3:45 in the morning, wrapped them in paper, and then smothered the fire down, and I put them on for another hour at about 175.
Wow, look at that.
Brother, you saw the finished product. Like
Yeah.
the beef, they were coming off the bones. And a lot of people, you know, like if you want to cook in a pan, you know, you can cook in a pan. I don't do my beef ribs over open fire. You know, I smoke them. I let the slow heat get them.
Yeah.
And I put whatever fruit puree, a little bit of water, a little Worcestershire, and I fill the water up until it just covers the bone, because I don't want the bone to burn at the bottom of the pan. And that steam and fragrance goes right through the bottom of that bone. Hell, you can chew the bone when I get done.
I'm gonna this weekend, because this upcoming weekend, I'm gonna do a few racks for some people that are coming over. And what I've done, like I smoked some ribs the other weekend, and I started to the Atlanta Grill Company here in Atlanta, where I get all my stuff from. They have a bunch of different, you know, rubs and vinegars and marinades and stuff like that. As I've been spraying the ribs with like a champagne vinegar or a cherry vinegar, apple vinegar, apple juice, yeah, that kind of thing. And I've been doing that every, you know, like 45 minutes or so. And it just, there's a flavor that you get after when it's all said and done. And everybody's got kind of their own gimmick when it comes to food. And it's weird in the food industry is that, unlike everything else in life, I don't see a lot of arguing. People like accept other people's way of cooking. They're like listening, going, oh, wow, I should try that, versus going, no, you're wrong, Mark Henry. I'm going to fight you. Wait a minute. No, I'm not.
Wouldn't be wise. Wouldn't be wise.
So what we do on the podcast, again, for those not in the know, I'll get back to talking to Mark about all the cool stuff he's done in his life and continues to do, and some more food. But our chef, Jimmy Bones, part of our armed forces, stationed down there in Miami, got his set up in front of his sweet Camaro. His sweet Camaro. He's got something really cool that he's going to cook for us on this episode of Shoot to Grill. Jimmy Bones, go ahead and explain, please, sir.
So I wasn't able to get the tenderloin that I planned on because the butcher was out, but I got some really, really amazingly marbled flat meat. It's not that expensive, but wait till you guys see this stuff. It looks like it could be Wagyu.
Wow.
So you're gonna do a steak for us, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So originally he was gonna do some Wagyu, and I was like,
and we're gonna do some potatoes too.
And some potatoes, but Bubba Ray got me onto this Wagyu kick. And then I was talking to you, Mark, the other day about the Wagyu, and I got to tell you, even the American Wagyu, because it's obviously a lot less expensive than the Japanese Wagyu, it's great. It's rich, but it's really good.
And you got to pay attention to it, because with the fat content and the marbling, you'll burn it up if you're not careful.
Yeah. So, Jimmy Bones, how are you going to cook this steak on your beast behind you? Jimmy.
So we're going to do it. I'm going to get to about 600 probably. You guys can see it's pretty hot back there right now. So we're just going to do it really fast and a really hard sear on it.
Okay, awesome. And you're going to season it and do all that good stuff, and we'll watch it. We'll have the recipe on shoottogrillpodcast.com for those not in the know, but Jimmy cooks up some great food. So, Jimmy, go ahead and do your thing off camera. We'll watch. Mark and I will chit-chat, and every once in a while we'll virtually fluff Nate's porn stash.
Hey, really quick, Mark, my nephew's a huge fan, and he wanted me to say hi to you for him.
Hey, man, you tell him I said what's up.
So,
Mark,
I'm the Mark Henry on everything. So social media wise, he can reach out to me at the Mark Henry on everything, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Freak out if he says hi to me.
You've always been like that, though, right, Mark? I mean, even with the fame and the money that came along with it, you were never one of those guys that, you know, just kind of thought he got a little bit too big for his britches, were you?
No, not at all. I mean, I realized that every man puts his boots on the same way. You might take them off different, but you're gonna have to put them on the same way. You pull a tongue, pull a heel, and slip your foot in. Yeah. So I don't feel like I'm no different. And God has blessed me truly with all the things I've been able to accomplish, and all the people that I've been able to meet, and all of the money that I made. But it don't define me. Like the stuff that I did and the stuff that I possess is nothing without my health. And my health is great. And I feel like my relationships with people are more valuable, and my connections are more valuable than anything else I have.
You obviously worked your ass off before the WWE to hold all the records in weightlifting, win all the championships, get to the '96 Olympics, which was here in Atlanta. Wrestling's a different animal because there's a lot of right place, right time in that business. No matter, you got to still work hard, but a lot of guys that even work hard sometimes don't get, as they say, over from the crowd. You obviously got over. Was there the first or any right place, right time for you?
I guess if I was going to say right time, right place was, I did Oprah and Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien, all of these shows in right before '96 Olympic Games, and people were asking me, man, what does the world's strongest man do in his spare time? Like, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a foodie. I like to eat. As you can tell, I haven't missed many meals, and don't bother me on Mondays. Those are the days that I watch wrestling. And that word got to Milo Steinborn, who was down in Florida, who was friends with Vince McMahon, and he was like, yo, man, you got to take a look at this kid, man. He's a big old giant dude and moves like a cat at times when I wasn't sleepy. And Vince and my manager and Milo were friends. So he gave Vince my phone number, and Vince called me. And, of course, me and all my infinite knowledge, I hung up on him because I thought it was one of my friends joking with me. And, of course, he calls Terry and goes, hey, I tried to call Mark, but I think he just hung up in my face. And is there something going on? I was like, Terry called me. I said, hey, man, he said, did you just hang up on Vince McMahon? And I said, that was Vince McMahon for real? He said, yeah, fool, take his phone call. And Vince called me back probably about 5 minutes later. It was the longest 5 minutes of my life. And we started talking, and I told him what happened, and he just busted out laughing. He said, that's not the first time I've been hung up on. I'd love to have you come to Connecticut and see how we do things. And I never left. Wow.
You never went through the system like, I guess at that time it would have been not even FCC with Steve Kern. That
was 95. There was no such thing as developmental wrestling. I was the first developmental wrestler. The first school that was set up for the WWE. And back then, there wasn't a lot of wrestling schools anyway, if any. You went to a territory. You started at the bottom, putting the ring together, doing odds and ends for the promoters and the people that own the companies. And then you gradually got to get in the ring and work with guys. A lot of times you was the referee, you was the crew, you was the grips, whatever you want to call it. And the roadies, whatever you want to call it. And that's how you got in. And then they started training you how to wrestle. Well, what the WWE found with me was they said, we're gonna create the superstars of the future. And I moved to Connecticut and, worked out in a warehouse with a ring. And Dr. Tom Pritchard, he was the first coach I had and the first trainer that I had. And then shortly after that, The Rock moved in or came to Connecticut and signed. And I was probably 9 months working by myself before The Rock got there. And once he got there, he didn't have but $13, which is the name of his company, $13, and no place to live. So he moved in with me. And, you know, he moved in with me and we started training together every morning. And in the afternoon, we did film study and watched a lot of wrestling and bonded. He's a brother of mine. Not by blood, but by heart and soul, man. Like, he's a good man. He's doing a lot for himself and his family, but he's also doing a lot for the world. So I really do appreciate him. But we had a lot in common. We were both athletes. We both like food. I mean, him pancakes and me barbecue. And and we had a good time. And we trained hard, man, every day. And you know, I broke my ankle, I healed up, and he and I went to Memphis and we started wrestling in Jerry Lawler's territory. So
Wow.
even though you train, you got to get in the ring and wrestle in front of a crowd and have trial and error. And that's what I was able to do.
I don't care how great a person is, and I'm a huge rock fan, right? If you're living with someone over a period of time, there will always be a pet peeve of a roommate. Please tell me what your pet peeve of the Rock's you had when you lived with him.
Man, he would always come in and turn the air conditioning down. Like, at the time, I was 400 pounds, man. I walk around, I sweat. I'm sitting here on my front porch, and I'm sweating a little bit. I always sweat. I'm always hot. And that fool would come and turn the air conditioning down or turn it up to, like, 75. And I'm like, bro, like, my name is on the lease. Leave the air conditioning alone.
That's great, man. That dude, did you know that The Rock was like, you know, people have an it factor. He obviously has the it factor. And, you know, you hear stories all the time of, you know, when he came in the WWF at the time and he wasn't happy with his character and he was booed and he didn't like it and this and this and that, you know, but everybody says the kid had something. The kid had something. Did you see that too?
Oh, most definitely. The biggest thing that he has is he's over-prepared. He's constantly writing something down, trying to remember it, practicing it. If it didn't work, throw it away. He was evolving, ever evolving. He was the most prepared guy I ever met in my life. He works hard, and he studies hard, and he's not afraid of failure. And that's the thing that's his biggest quality, is the fact that no will only last for about 5 minutes, and then he done forgot that you told him no, and he gonna try it again.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, I was there when you got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in New Orleans, because obviously I was there for for Bubba. I got there, and you know, God, it was so long ago when we all could be in one building together without wearing masks. It's crazy. Well, that night, you know, with guys getting into a Hall of Fame, and the joke is with the WWE, there's no building. So is it really a Hall of Fame? Is it to you like the pinnacle of the wrestling career? It's like, I've made it because I was inducted. Is it that big of a deal?
It is. And a lot of it is more than there's a building. Like a church is just another building without God in it. And that's the way pro wrestling is. Without the respect of your peers, and your peers saying, yes, that guy right there, if there is a Hall of Fame, he belongs in it. That's the WWE Hall of Fame, is a collection of the best guys that ever did it. And it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get in because so many guys are similar, or they have the same skill set, or there's 5 guys that came before him he was like that guy. And if you don't, you know, surpass that guy in popularity or accolades, then people will tend to say, nah, he wasn't good as this guy and that guy and that guy, so you don't get in. But at the end of the day, it's about your peers, and it's not a dog and pony show that Vince puts on. These are legitimate guys that have unbelievable stories that's told about them in the ring and out of the ring. And I felt like I did everything that you could do to get there, and I was really, really honored to kind of whatever you call a first ballot, if you will, to be able to go in so soon.
And you brought out the salmon jacket from memory serves, right?
Well, I brought the salmon jacket out when I retired, or I so-called calling myself retiring.
Right. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
You didn't wear it up on stage that night? I know you mentioned it. You talked about it, but
they brought it out. I
brought it out. Yeah.
I actually gave the jacket to the WWE for a museum that they're going to eventually get together. They have an archivist, and that's chronicling and putting everything through WWE history out. And they have the jacket, and they also have my sexual chocolate wrestling gear. They have my Nation of Domination gear, and they have one of my Hall of Pain wrestling gear. So it's pretty cool, man, to have so many different eras and to wrestle in 3 different decades, and all of which you had success in all 3.
Yeah, I think from what I heard, they're building it in Orlando. Orlando's kind of, because of the Full Sail relationship, in which my best friend's sister's husband runs Full Sail. They're building that the museum and the Hall of Fame in Orlando.
Uncle's friend.
Yeah, it's one of those types of things. Yeah, Full Sail, dude. I'm from Orlando, so I mean, I remember when Full Sail was, just a thing. And he actually, last time I saw my best friend's sister's husband, he was telling me about the meeting he had with Triple H when they first launched the NXT stuff there. And he had no idea about wrestling. And it was funny because I'm a wrestling fan, obviously, to listen to a non-wrestling fan talk about sitting down with somebody like Triple H. And he's like, I had no idea what this guy was talking about. He's like, he wants to bring wrestling into Full Sail. And I was like, well, you do know the guy's a big deal, right? He's like, yeah, I was told that. But, I was like, cool. It's going to bring revenue in. I'm all for it.
I tell you, it's a pretty ingenious deal because as you know, Full Sail is one of the best accredited TV and movie schools in the world. Yeah. And to be able to now, the guys and girls that are in NXT that go to school there that are, working, they get credit for what they're doing in the production of pro wrestling.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like it's a really, really big deal. A lot of those guys and girls are getting experience working behind the cameras and working with lighting and sound and all of the stuff that makes Full Sail. Like the NXT is pretty much ran by the students.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Crazy, man. Like it's a very well-oiled machine. And I'm happy to have gone down there and did some seminars and coached and actually scouted players I say players, but scouted wrestlers and them be champions now.
I literally lived right in front of Full Sail, like Baldwin Park, that area there. It used to be the old naval base. And, Nate will tell you, he lived, we both went to UCF and kind of grew up there for the most part. And the joke with Full Sail was, yeah, it's a great school if you've got $3,000 and you're willing to buy yourself your own MacBook. That was kind of the thing, because you had to have your own Mac, which was pricey. Apple wasn't Apple at the time. And, all the kids that went there, when they were going there, they'd always wear it like a badge of honor. Like, I'm a Full Sail student. I need to get this job. And being in radio for all these years, I get these interns from Full Sail, and they're like, yeah, they taught me proper mic technique, so I think I need to start getting paid. I'm like, bro, you need to slow down.
Pump your brakes.
Slow down just a little bit. Go back before, the story with meeting Vince at the Olympics in '96, the right place, right time. Like, when you were training and obviously so successful in the weightlifting world competitively, what was your plan afterwards? I mean, did you, obviously wrestling wasn't it. What was your plan afterwards? After an Olympic athlete's an Olympic athlete, what do you do?
You know what? I gave up on Olympic weightlifting because they allowed those guys in the off season to take steroids and growth hormone and blood doping or whatever else they can get away with. And I kind of got disenfranchised with the sport. And I knew that I was going to stop Olympic weightlifting after '96 Olympics. And I had been world champion in powerlifting. And at that point, I was not world champion in strongman because I hadn't started the sport of strongman. The best thing that I did from that point was play football. And I was a really good football player, but I stopped in playing football in my prime so I wouldn't get injured before the Olympic Games. And I went to, in '95, I went to work out, actually in '93, I went and worked out after the Olympics, the first Olympics I went to, with Bob Young, who was the offensive line coach for the Houston Oilers. And I'm telling my age. And so I go to the Oilers, and they want me to sign with the Oilers, and was really excited. Like, man, you got to see what this guy could do. Like, I can't believe, we had a rookie that we drafted that he just ragdolled. And you got to see him. He's never played one down of college or one down of pro ball. And Jim Hannafin and Bob Young both were like, we want you to sign, but they didn't want to sign me for any money. The money that was the league minimum, and I was above what that was already. So I just, I'm gonna go to the '96 games, and during that process in '95, the Cowboys came to Austin, Texas. They were training at St. Edward's University, and my manager, once again, who was friends with a guy that knew Barry Switzer, who was the coach at the time, brought me in for workouts. And I went down there and worked out. The first day, I went to the gym, and they had me do all the physical stuff. Hey, can you squat down? Can you do duck walks? Can you do all of this stuff just to see if I had any injuries? Can you do a handstand? You name it. They put me.
You could do a handstand? You could do a handstand?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
At 375 at that time.
Wow.
And so I had to put my feet on the wall. I wasn't doing a freestanding handstand.
I'm just picturing Mark Henry doing Matrix style flips through the hallway there. Just kind of
hey, put it out your mind. Put it out your mind. Act like you didn't think it. But I did all this workout, and then I asked them. I was like, "Hey, y'all got a nice gym here. Do you mind if I work out before we do the practice?" And they were like, "You gonna work out before practice?" And I was like, "Yeah. I'm gonna have a light practice, a light workout." And I went up to 7 plates in a squat and did 10 reps. And I put the squat down and I did the leg press. And they didn't have enough weight in the gym for me to do leg presses. And I did leg curls and leg extensions, and I did my core work. And then I said, okay, I'm ready. And the strength coach for the Cowboys was like, who in the hell are you? And what rock, what planet did you come from? Like, bro, you did 700 pounds 10 times. And I said, man, that's only 70%. And the guy said, get out of here, man. Like, this is bullshit. There's no way that you can do 1,000 pounds. And I showed him a video back then it was VHS. Yeah. I showed him a VHS tape of a highlight reel that I did. And it had me squatting 950. It had me deadlifting 900 pounds. It had me benching 550. It had me dunking a basketball. It had me doing a vertical jump on a 33-inch box. And they were like, bro, I don't know if we have nobody here that could do that. And I said, I know you don't have anybody there that could do that. And so they took me out. And for my workouts. And the first thing I did was all these football drills, butt rolls, up downs. They made me run up and down, stop, blew the whistle, jump in the air. And I did all that stuff for about 20 minutes. And I knew right away that they were like super impressed. And I had a bee flying around. I'm sweet. And the guy said, he was like, man, we have some guys here that, you know, the rookies that they had drafted. And they had drafted a middle linebacker in 95 named Robert Jones. Mm-hmm. And he said, Robert's gonna run a little bit and do his physical. You want to run with him? And I was like, I just did a squat workout and, you know, did all these drills. And I said, yeah, I'll run. I mean, if you want me to run. And he was like, when was the last time you ran a 40? And I said, probably 89. And they were like, you haven't done any sprinting since 89? And I said, yeah, 89, 90. You know, I graduated high school and I'm explaining to them who Mark Henry is. And because they didn't know. And I just got set up for the workout. So I go in and I run at 375 pounds, and a guy that just jumped on a 33-inch box pretty easily and squatted 700 pounds 10 times, had a little football workout, and I ran a 5.28 40.
So I was going to guess. I was like, hold on, let me guess. I was going to say a 5.2. That's what my guess would have been. What did Robert Jones run?
Almost a 5.3 40. And the guy that they drafted, Robert Jones, ran a 4.9, and he was a 250-pound middle linebacker. He was special from Eastern Carolina. Yeah. And we ended up being really, really good friends. And, man, we raised our kids here in Austin, Texas. He lived here in Austin, and we raised our kids together, love him like a brother. But we met each other, 20 years ago. And there was a couple of offensive linemen that they had who I outran them, I outlifted them. But once again, in the NFL, you have to have Lords of London was their insurance back then. And it cost just to get, the insurance package for football at that time was like $70,000, which wow. I was like, I'm not doing that. Like it's going to cost me $70,000, and you only want to pay me the NFL minimum. I was like, the NFL is hardcore, man. So you see these guys, I'm trying to negotiate my own deal. And which I realized that you can't do that in the NFL. You need one of these Harvard graduates that, they look at how much, I didn't know how much everybody else was making. They would have really got over on me if I had signed the deal that they wanted me to sign. But around that time, Vince McMahon called. I don't know, man. Like I think it worked out for the best.
Do you ever, in retrospect, think back and go, you're being a Texas guy, and, Texas is obviously a big football state. So you got workouts with the two Texas teams, which I'm assuming as a kid growing up, you were fans of. So when, you think back, what would have been a bigger deal, playing at home as a Dallas Cowboy and or a Houston Oiler, or going back as Mark Henry, the WWE superstar in wherever venue in Texas?
You know what, man? As the old high school, 2 or 3 years out of college, Mark Henry would have said, listen, Cowboys, sign me up. I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. But as I got older, I realized that everywhere I went, people recognized me. And once I started wrestling, like I was as big a star as anybody that I knew, professional athletes included, Olympians, pro football players, basketball players. When I came to the arena, if I came to Louisiana, there would be professional athletes that I knew in Louisiana that would come to watch wrestling. And one of those was a little kid at the time. A lot of people know him as Lil Wayne. Mm-hmm. I used to get him and BG, the rapper that was in the Hot Boys, was a friend of a friend's brother. And Lil Wayne used to come with BG all the time to wrestling events. And they would be like, Mark Henry, can you get us in? Can you get us in? And I would get them tickets to the shows and stuff. And now he's Lil Wayne, one of the most famous rappers in the world. And those people were fans of mine. And I was like, yeah, I think I made a good decision.
Well, now that it's all said and done, I mean, that part of your life, I should say, what celebrity were you kind of marking out for when they became a fan of yours? Like they approached you and you're like, wow, holy shit, I can't believe you're a fan of mine. This is great. I'm a huge fan of yours.
Bro, Shaquille O'Neal, Magic Johnson. It's funny. Shaquille was playing for Orlando at the time.
Yeah.
And he came to a show, and I'll send you a picture of it. I'm sitting in the back and talking to him. He's got a WWF shirt on. And we just sitting there shooting the shit. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is the best basketball player in the NBA. I mean, Michael Jordan was the guy, but man, it was hard to beat who Shaq was. And that was the breaking backboard Shaq. Yeah. And it was just a really good thing, man.
Shaq, did he ever take you to Mama B's in Orlando? That was his go-to for subs. He likes himself some Mama B's subs right there on where's that, Nate? The corner of 50 East Colonial by downtown, right by the Amway Center. Man, he had his own little booth. Walk in and almost every day he'd be there when he was in town.
No, man, he never took me. He never took me out to eat there, but I used to go. I can't remember the name of it, man. It's down on Orange Blossom Trail, off of Orange Blossom Trail. There's a soul food joint, and I used to go to this family-owned soul food joint all the time. As late as the last 5 years, I know it closed down now, but I used to go to Oblivion Burger. You remember Oblivion Burger?
Nate, you know Oblivion Burger? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, that was on Colonial also, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
was it?
That place was off the chain, man. The guy, I was like, man, this ain't just regular hamburger, man. And he was like, no, man, like we freeze our meat and then we grind it. And I was like, well, what is it? He said, well, it's depending on what burger you want. If you want the prime, we got the Chuck burger and then they would grind up brisket and they would mix those meats together. And it would be a really moist, fatty, meat-flavored patty. And I told him, I said, man, I'm going to try this. As soon as I can get me a grinder, I'm going to mix some meats together. And then I came back probably less than a month or two later. They were getting the Full Sail together. Full Sail and FCW had just moved to Orlando.
Yeah.
And they were putting it together. And I went back to that place because it was so good. And he said, hey, man, guess what we're doing now? And I was like, what's that? And he was like, we're grinding up pork belly, brisket, and ground round, and we're making our patties with it. It's called the Oblivion Burger. And I said, give me one, man. That's what I want. I want the Oblivion Burger. And that was I was completely sprung after that. I was going there at least once or twice a week when I was in Orlando. And I just thought it was the best burger in town.
I've been told that by a few people in the grilling world. There's something to, and you would think that's not the fact, but freezing the meat while you cook it or while you prep it, like on the KJ, I've got the rotisserie, and I do the wings in the basket with a spit. This guy, Coach, who works at the Atlanta Grill Company here in Roswell, he's like, make sure when you put the wings in the basket, they're frozen. I'm like, I thought you weren't supposed to cook food frozen. He's like, they taste better. I forget why, but I think there's something to the whole frozen meat thing. I don't know what it is.
You know what, man? I thought that the main purpose for them freezing it so it would be hard and easy for them to chip up and get everything at the same consistency so they can, mix it together and put it in patties. And I have a different philosophy when I do chicken, especially when I put my stuff on the smoker. I will put a little smoke on them for probably about 5-6 minutes, and then I will take them off, and I will skewer them, and I will deep fry them.
Wow!
And it puts that a real good crust on it with the smoke flavor. I mean, if you're gonna put put the chicken on the smoker, you're gonna have to leave them on there for 20 minutes. And you gotta, at that time, you gotta open it up and flip it. And usually the fire gets hot, and you got, like, especially when you work with a Komodo or a green egg, you don't want to open them very often because they'll flare up. And I think me and you talked about it, like those smokers, man, they'll burp on you and burn all the hair off your arms.
Yeah, that's why you got to burp them. You got to, anytime the go-to video for anybody that's grilling or smoking on a KJ or green egg, you see them walk up, with their phone, they're walking up, and then you see them burp it, and then the smoke comes out, and then they open it, and that's like the cliche smoking video for any griller. It's kind of funny. And I know that we talked about this on the phone the other day. I know that you're all natural with your smoking, but you got to give this this thing I bought the other week, this Flame Boss 500. They're actually based in Orlando too, where the vent at the bottom of any of these, it fits any of these, fits I think even a Traeger or all the different grills, and it gives you a shield. You put the blower in, hooks up to the device, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth enabled, gives you notifications. Type in all your numbers, your temperatures. You walk away and you track it on your phone. I know that's not your style right now, Mark, but you got to give it a shot.
Man, once I get out there, I don't come in the house. I stay out there and watch it. I'm on my phone, and my alarm will go off. I set my alarm 15 minutes, have the time for whatever I'm cooking if I'm grilling. And when I'm smoking something, I want that temperature to stay consistent. And I don't know if I told you I bought a fire dragon, and it'll blow. It'll turn on when the thermometer goes. If I have it set for 225 or 200, and it gets down to below that temp, it'll kick that little fan on, and the fan will get the fire back up.
Yeah, that's what the Flame Boss does. That's the same concept.
So
yeah, same concept.
Same thing as a fire dragon. Yeah.
It's just same stuff. Same stuff, man. And but I like the idea that I get my notifications on my phone, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, don't do that. What you got is better than what I got.
you got to upgrade your fire dragon to the Flame Boss. Did you ever use your foodie?
Send me one.
That's one of the reasons I talked to the guy, Bob, that runs it the other day, and I'm trying to get him to be on the podcast, to be the sponsor, and also get him on the radio show. We had that
give him my number until I'll talk to him. I'll hook that up for you.
I'll make sure when I tweet out when we release this. Mark Henry is a big fan of that Flame Boss. That's how Bubba's gotten in with Kamado Joe, slimy bastard. So did you ever cook, grill for any of the guys when you're out on the road?
Only when I was in Canada. When I was in Canada, I actually lived there. So I moved to Calgary. Whoa.
Damn. I think that's a still shot. Is that a still shot of Jimmy Bones?
Whoa.
That's not what he just cooked. I don't know. He's having Wi-Fi. I think that's a Getty image. I don't think that's real. See if you can get him back on, Nate. See what happens.
Yeah, I've been talking to him. He's coming back right now.
All right.
I think I'm gonna bite that. I'm gonna bite that photo.
I don't think that's what he got, though. I don't think that's what he made because his steaks. There you go. Yeah, that wasn't your steak, Jimmy Bones, was it? That was a screenshot.
I don't think he could hear us.
Yeah, I think
Jimmy,
his audio is connecting.
Oh, okay. Anyway, you said just in Canada you cook for everybody?
Yeah, I moved up to Calgary and I was living and training at Bret Hart's house, and a couple of times I grilled up there for the kids and grilled for them. You know, when the family would go and have husband and wife night, they go out on a date, and I kept the kids. You know, so I was everybody was a big fan of Texas barbecue. So
the kids would have been like Natalia's not his, obviously that's
no. Natalia was there, and she would be at the Hart House, but Natalia, she was probably 9 or something like that. Her and TJ both. They were like little kids, and Brett's family was the ones that I kept mostly. Every now and then the other kids would be, you know, at the Hart House, and I'll be over there with them. So that was a lot of fun, man, to watch them grow up and become professional wrestlers themselves.
What'd you think of the the Dark Side of the Ring stuff on Owen?
You know what, man? It is what it is. I can see why Martha didn't want anything to do with the wrestling business. There was a time when I was like, wow, Owen deserves this. Like, you know, like his kids deserve to know how much we loved Owen. And that don't matter when it comes to the love of the wife. And, you know, she's the one that, you know, I'm going to talk to her, you know, soon. But it's hard for me to talk about him without breaking down. And it would really be hard for me to talk to her about it. We haven't had a real conversation. I spoke to her probably about 3 or 4 years after Owen had passed. And then I just completely lost contact with her.
That's got to be tough, man. In the wrestling business, you know, for whatever reason, the life expectancy for these guys, you know, from a fan standpoint, you know, you see guys and they leave us too early. And, you know, again, for whatever reason, and it kills you because it's like if you're a fan of a rock star or a movie star and something happens and they leave and the fan is going, you know, what happened? You were 42 years old. You're 43 years old. But I've had these conversations, like we'll say off the record with some people that are no longer with us. And the running theme, I'll never forget one person, I'm not going to say his name, telling me this, he said, my job was to provide for my family. And I did that. And they'll never have to worry about it again. I can leave. And I was like, wow, that is like one of the deepest things someone's ever said to me. But, you know, I guess if you put that in perspective, it makes sense. You know, I mean, if this is the only thing you're going to do.
I felt the same way. I tell my kids all the time. My kids are 10 and 14. And I tell them, like, I did all the grunt work so that you can go to school. And I want you to go to an Ivy League school. They have their college funds that if they don't get a scholarship, they will go to college regardless, wherever school they want to go to. Of course, I threaten them all the time to send them to community college if they don't do their do right. But I want them to get scholarships so I can spend their college money. But all jokes aside, like they don't have to grind like I grind. They don't have to have the failures that I had. And if your only objective is to go to college and to honor mom and dad, then man, your life is pretty easy. Like just go out there and do that. And man, I took bumps for my money. I mean, I bled for my money. You know, there's several times where I broke stuff and tore muscles up and had to go home for 6 months. And when I would go home for 6 months, I I would reconnect with my family. In the pro wrestling world, when we go on the road, man, like we could be gone for months without seeing the kids. So this pandemic, the one thing about this pandemic for pro wrestlers that ones that made it and made enough money to not have to work, is pretty good. But the sad thing is there's not any shows, there's not any tours, there's not any personal appearances and so forth, autograph signings, and a lot of guys that didn't have 401ks and insurance and you name it, they're out of work with no means to make money unless they have another skill where they're own private companies. Like I have a friend of mine that owns a car wash. I have a friend of mine, a lot of cash business.
Yeah.
One owns a landscaping company, and he gathers together about 30 guys, and they keep apartment complexes and office parks and stuff like that. And he's got these contracts where he makes probably as much money now from that as he did wrestling.
Oh, really?
So, that's what I advise all wrestlers. I was like, when you start wrestling, there's no 401k. There's no union. You're gonna have to be your own boss outside of pro wrestling. Go buy a car wash. Go buy a landscaping company. Learn a trade, a barber school. Where you can afford to buy a building and make it a barbershop or a hair salon, and have those people pay you rent. Like, you always got to figure out a way to make money, and that's what I'm doing. I don't have to, but I do it because I'm trained and conditioned to make money another way. I parlay my understanding of radio and television show talking about pro wrestling, 2 radio shows talking about pro wrestling and sports, and having my own show, not a sports show, on YouTube. And man, it's about hustle. It's hustling bullshit. Get your ass out there and hustle and try to make it happen for yourself. And eventually I'm gonna write a book about hustle, because I think that a lot of people, they need a fire lit under them. Do you have to fall on hard times and struggle before you get yourself together to the point where you say, I got to make more money. I want to live a little bit grander. Like, how much you willing to sacrifice and how much you willing to hustle.
Right. That's the name of my next album if I was a musician. Hustle and bullshit. I can see that on T-shirts everywhere. Baby. Hustle and bullshit. Yeah.
That's my thing.
It's always interesting to see a celebrity, like say a professional wrestler, as you're saying, with other businesses, doing other things, like Kane, in politics in Tennessee, and Matt Morgan in politics in Longwood, outside of Orlando, or guys that are just in some totally opposite business. Chris Nowinski, who runs. I was
just going to say, look at Chris, Xavier Woods. If Xavier Woods quit pro wrestling tomorrow, he would be a professor at a major college within months. Like, he knows that networking, computer business, and has his PhD in education administration, and like, he get a job. Prepare yourself. Like, what? I don't know how else to tell people. Like, do you like to eat? Do you like having electricity? Do you like going to nice places?
It's always, you never want to see anybody on hard times, like, especially the old school wrestlers, like before, you see them living in these like small apartments, and they ain't got any money, and they, they're showing up for the autograph signing, and you just feel horrible. And you're like, oh my God, I used to watch you every Saturday afternoon. what in the Sam hell happened.
But you know what? Some people think that athletics is gonna last forever, ever. You do know that iron will wear out, right?
Yeah.
Like you can, if iron will work out, what do you think is going to happen to blood and bone and
Yeah.
flesh?
Yeah.
It's going to wear out. Like
Right.
it's not meant to. It's not. You're not meant to make wrestling money forever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I tell everybody that comes in, hey, while you making a few $100,000 a year, you need to create a couple of cash businesses so you can at least at the end of the day write off your expenses and write off what you spend at home, because you can write off what you spend on the road, but if you start trying to screw the IRS, they're gonna come get your ass. You know, and I young in my career, I did the same thing.
Would you please consider opening up a big and tall men's sports jacket shop and call it Mark Henry's Salmon Sports Jackets and just sell salmon sports jackets? I mean, first of all, I love the color. Before you debuted it on the whole gimmick with Cena, I put the color, but I think that is a good cash business for you, Mark. I really do.
You know what, man? I rather than recreate the wheel, I've already reached out to Rochester Big and Tall, and DXL is the company that it falls under. They used to have Casual Male Big and Tall, but I've reached out to those people a couple of times, and probably the last couple of months, and said, you know what, I love to market your products. You know, you do a good job. I go to the Big and Tall every now and then just to get socks and sandals and, you know, little knick-knack stuff. You know, for me to get a suit, a lot of times I have to, if I buy a suit from a place like DXL, I got to spend another $200 getting it altered, brand new, not even out of the bag, because my shoulders are really wide, but relatively, I'm smaller in the waist. So, you know, especially compared to my shoulders. So, you know, I got big butt and thighs, and I gotta have, my waist is still a 46. So, you know, regular clothes don't fit on me. If I buy them, I gotta get them altered.
Yeah. I'm sure when you walk in, they're like, oh shit, I don't know if we're gonna be able to take care of this guy.
Look like brother got some food on the table, man. Let me hold on. I gotta zoom in on this.
Like, hey,
hold on. I need to turn it the way he's got it.
Yeah,
brother, move that plate back so I can see those potatoes.
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
Jimmy Bones, what do you got there? We lost you for a little bit. We thought you went MIA, man, or AWOL.
Yeah, just technical difficulties.
That's all right. All right, man. Those steaks. Let me take my glasses off. Get those steaks up and explain again what you cooked them on. Obviously, the steaks cook relatively fast on a grill. You had it at what, 500 probably?
Yeah, it was about 550 probably.
Yeah, 550. Did you sear first?
Yeah. So I did. I just threw it right on the fire the whole time.
Yeah. And what did you season it with? Run us through it.
The seasoning is Everglades. I don't know if you guys have ever tried this, but it's really good. So I did Everglades. I did olive oil, and then I did fresh ground pepper and some minced garlic.
Yeah.
All
and
right.
So how long on the grill altogether each side? What'd you do?
I think it was maybe 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Wow. Okay. You wanna cut it open? Let's see the guts.
Yeah. Let me move the camera, and then so you guys can get a good shot.
So Mark, what Jimmy Bones does, if you're wondering where he's cooking, at first when Jimmy Bones was on the podcast, I thought he was cooking for an assisted living facility, but it's actually his apartment complex. So he cooks food, and especially in the self-isolation world, and he feeds his neighbors down there in Miami, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that is awesome. Look at him. He cutting it on the bias. My man.
Let's say. So I cooked for the first time last weekend, Mark, on a salt block. I did some fish, I did some snapper, and did some tuna. And somebody on social media said, try cooking a steak on a salt block. Have you ever done that?
I have not, but my adoptive mother has, and it was delicious. I told her that, oh, wow, look at that. That's a good medium.
That's really good. Well done, man. Not well done, but well done, Jimmy. It was very nice.
Good job. Attaboy.
Thank you.
Man, what did you do to those potatoes? Any rosemary?
No, so I did olive oil and the Everglades again.
Okay.
Loving
That was it.
Everglades.
I don't know. I'm gonna give you one of my little Mark Henry go-tos. If you could, I want you to try at some point. You can get Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. Just a regular, dry dressing, and get you a little foil basket and little garlic butter. Cut those new potatoes in half, roll them around in there, and sprinkle that ranch dressing on it.
Right.
Wow.
And the same thing with chicken.
That's actually one of my go-tos.
That's one of my favorite things. Ranch dressing, salt and pepper on my chicken. That is it.
That's all you need.
Brother, you will eat your own hand if it's in the way.
When I was doing the salt block stuff last weekend, I forgot that for Christmas, my wife, I think it was my wife, got me this cast iron thing, and you put shrimp in. It's got little slots for shrimp. So sometimes if you're at a restaurant, they'll serve you shrimp scampi in one of these things. So we went out and got some high-end shrimp. When I say high-end, it's not like over the top. We went to Sprouts, right? So versus like Publix or Kroger. Good shrimp. Put the shrimp in these little slots in this cast iron, butter, garlic, and Parmesan cheese. And I put it on the KJ while I cooked the fish on the salt block. Oh my God. My daughter, who hates shrimp, would not stop eating them. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Good stuff.
Hey, I tell you what, I'm going to send you a video of me doing the identical same thing probably last week. And I put the actual black tiger prawns on the grill. Yeah. And let them they started to get a little pink, not even all the way done. Then I took them out and put them into the garlic and butter with a little red wine, a little white wine. And I made a garlic butter wine sauce. And my daughter and son, they were like, "Can you make spaghetti?" And I made some angel hair pasta and put it on top of that angel hair pasta. It would have been $28, $30 in a restaurant.
Right? How old are your kids, Mark?
They are, listen, man, my daughter is 10 and my son is 14. And they are the most expensive damn dates. If you go out to a restaurant, man, they order fillets and lobster tail and shrimp scampi and stuff that as a kid, all I was allowed to order was a chicken leg and a hamburger.
Do they eat the stuff you?
Let me tell you what my son gonna come out here, and you ask him what he orders. Like, Jacob, come here, son. Sit down here. You're gonna be on the show. Listen.
Hey. What's up, Jacob? How are you?
What do you order when you eat sushi?
California roll, spider roll, the ex-girlfriend roll.
What's the ex-girlfriend roll?
The ex-girlfriend roll should not ever be ordered.
What is that?
But it's like it's a spicy tuna with it's basically a California roll with spicy tuna and some sauce on it, like the eel sauce.
Yeah, eel sauce.
And did you hear what he said? How many rolls you order?
I ordered 2 of each.
That's a lot of food for a kid, man. That's a lot of food. Well, about $80.
Sushi ain't cheap.
By himself, sometimes he'll order like $30 worth of sushi or $40. I said, man, I can't do it, man. So he went in his piggy bank, and he's like, look, I don't want y'all telling me that I can't order this. And he took $100 bill out of his piggy bank and gave it to my wife last week and said, I'm buying dinner, so y'all can't tell me what to
Touche.
do.
Touche.
My man.
Touche.
Hey, if he willing to pay for it, then, it's on you.
Maybe we need to get Jacob to have a conversation with my daughter, who's just turned 15 yesterday. And for Mother's Day a couple weeks ago, she comes up to me and she says, I ordered Mommy a Forever Rose on Amazon. And I was like, oh, that's great. I was like, how'd you pay for it? And she goes, oh, I used her credit card. I was like,
Oh,
not how that works, sweetheart. Come to me. I'll take care of it. What are you doing?
That means that's my gift.
Yeah.
I get the hugs and kisses when that comes. You don't go near my wife.
So anyway, all right. Well, look, Jimmy Bones, once again, man, you did a fantastic job. We love what you do. We appreciate everything that you do on and off the camera. You know that. Make sure you're following Jimmy Bones on social media. Get all his information on the Shoot to Grill Podcast website, shoottogrillpodcast.com. Don't forget stgpoker.com. If you're a poker player, you can find me in one of the rooms under BS Talker or B Stalker, however you want to read it. Play for real money. Go to the website first, sign up, then download the app, and you can cash out. It's quick, easy, and a lot of fun. Again, stgpoker.com. My man, Mark Henry, I am so glad we were able to do this. You were so much fun. I'm a fan, so this was such a treat for me. So thank you,
man. I appreciate you, man. I got a friend of mine that's one of those internet poker players. This dude, man. I call him a degenerate gambler, but it's only a gamble when you lose. This son of a gun, man. I mean, he'll win 20 grand. He'll win 5 grand. He'll lose 10 grand. He'll win 20. He'll drop 15. He never loses hardly. And I told him, I was like, well, why don't you become a pro? He said, oh, you got a habit if you're a pro.
Well, he's probably one of those guys, like that poker boom in the mid-2000s. I used to play, when I lived in Orlando, I was playing 3-4 times a week. Some people said I had a problem. I said I practiced.
Yeah.
I like to practice. I'm a very competitive person in everything that I do. And there's a difference between mind effing somebody in person and mind effing them on the internet.
Yeah.
And I'm a better mind effer one-on-one. I can manipulate anybody. And so that was fun for me, because as a radio dude, that's all you do every day. You know this. You get on the air and you
hustling bullshit, baby.
You take the temperature of the audience and try to entertain, compel, and inform. So those are those things. And, make sure that, if you've got Sirius XM, you listen to Mark do his thing on Busted Open on Fight Nation. I love listening to you guys. And whether you know it or not, I give advice to Bubba. So just, I don't know. He takes a lot of advice from me. I don't know if you know that or not.
Good. That's good to know. Now I know where his good ideas come from.
And as always,
hey man, let your people know, man, that you can reach me on Cameo. I'm doing the cameos. Celeb VM. I love doing the voice messaging. It's a lot of fun. Also, I have a store on Pro Wrestling Tees. Just look up the Mark Henry and go get that T-shirt. Just new and just got released last week.
What's it say? I wear salmon jackets.
That's going to be my next shirt. This one is got my logo and it's got World's Strongest Man.
You should have a picture of you like the Godfather, and it goes Sal, like Sal, man, Sal, like I'm Sal, man, I'm Sal, I'm the Godfather, Mark Henry, Sal, man.
I take ideas.
What in the voicemail thing? I've seen celebrities do this. What are some of the odd requests that you're getting?
The oddest request was a guy wanted me to cuss his friend out for stealing his girlfriend.
Did you do it?
Yes.
Did you use hardcore cuss words or no?
Oh man, I said you low down piece of shit, dirty son of a bitch. Why would you do that? All the women in the world, you got to take your boy's girl. If he comes and puts hands on you, you brought it on yourself.
I would pay. You got to be careful of the legality of that. Somebody's going to do that to try to get out of like a rental agreement or something and say, my buddy Mark Henry's going to whip your ass. I'm going to pay the $100 to get him to do this voicemail. And then they're going to think that you're being for real.
Well, I hope not. If they do, it's going to be on them, because I think in the fine print, it's for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, there you go. Nate, love you to death, brother. Love the porn stash. I saw you this morning, and I'll see you in a couple hours at my house. Thanks for being here, and the comments, I'm sure, are all saying that you look high.
Hey, appreciate y'all guys. It was so much fun.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Jimmy Bones. Thank you, Nate. Thank you to everybody. ShootTheGrillPodcast.com. Until next time, bye.